Now that's a serious fact.
Serious Sam the First Encounter has been released a couple of times. Meanwhile, Serious Sam 2 has... once. I have an idea. Let's see how many iterations of the First Encounter we can find. This will only include official releases without considering their regional counterparts. I also wouldn't be counting something like Serious Sam Classic being brought to Steam, because I'd consider that more like a reprint than a re-release. It's exactly the same game as was released in 2001, give or take some patches. So let's start with the original big box PC release from 2001. The box is put together well, demonstrating what to expect from the game, the once outstanding technology behind their engine, and it includes screenshots to seal the deal. The first time the bony hooves of the skeletal nightmare horse echoed into range, it sent a shiver down my spine. You know, generally in quoting someone, you'll paraphrase by putting the correct word there. That skeletal nightmare horse would be the clear, unless Rob Smith had a fever dream. I purchased this game brand new, so I know that the only thing inside is the jewel case that flops around the box. The enclosed manual is pretty good, printed in color. Granted, only 2 of the pages used color. On the left here you can see 2 monsters, the Electrofish and Marshhopper, using their beta textures. For detailed stats about your weapons and the enemies, the manual tells you to check out the included HTML document on the disc. Yep, this is good. I like this. I also like this. The bomb's eye is represented by the center of the disc. What I don't like is the shelf label. If you put this among any other games, it would blend right in. I don't know what this is supposed to be. Guess they really wanted you to store it in the big box, which happens to be mostly air. If they were gonna print on that side anyways, why not include the title? I have a couple big box PC games, I've never been a collector of them, so maybe this isn't that uncommon, I don't know, but at least the others I have don't do this. The first time Serious Sam would be re-released was its publication to the Palm OS platform in late 2001. It took more than 15 years for footage of this game to actually surface. Thank yours truly for buying a Palm and the game to uncover this mystery. I like how there's an active listing for this game on eBay that says tested, though it obviously wasn't since they believe it's a PC game. Cheapest price on eBay! Even that isn't true. A lot of games for the Palm would come packaged on CDs. This made it easy to transfer the files to it. Some games would come on multimedia cards, or MMCs for short, which fit into the SD card slot. Those were likely more expensive to produce. Serious Sam was not one of those games. Despite the fact that the CD wasn't needed anymore past installation, they had the decency to include a shelf label in its jewel case. Looking at you, big box. Shame that the manual doesn't really exist though, it's just a bunch of advertisements. In relation to the game, if you've ever played a mobile FPS from the early 2000s, then you know what to expect here. It's a respectable demake on a technical level, and the game itself is not too bad when you consider the existing library of Palm OS games, but it does have a few kinks that should have been worked out, such as the difficulty. I've talked more about this release in a much older video, so if this interests you, you can hear more about it there. On the box, there's a pre-release screenshot which shows a rocket launcher on the right-hand side, and next to that is a screenshot from the final build where it's positioned in the middle. This would end up being the position for the laser gun as well. Both are projectile-based weapons, which explains the swap. If you have a Palm OS and you want some games for it, then consider trying Serious Sam, because in relation to Palm gaming, well, it doesn't get much better than this, which I think speaks volumes. The next release of Serious Sam was in the form of a special edition in 2002, featuring 7 out of 15 action-packed levels. What's so special about it? Absolutely nothing. This is literally Serious Sam minus 8 levels. Also, the in-game title is green. I really haven't a clue why this exists, but at least seeing the big box condensed into this jewel case slipcover is kinda cute. If you thought that release was weird, how about this demo for the special edition? Yes, what is basically an extended demo has its own demo, featuring 5 of 7 levels from a 15-level game. Yet when you actually install the demo on the disc, it's just the Karnak demo. Unless I was missing something, I don't think there are actually 5 levels here. I feel as if this should have been called a demo for the base game rather than the special edition, because it's hyping for a re-release that featured far fewer levels. Very bizarre. This was given out as a free promotional bonus for anyone who pre-ordered Max Payne on PC. Historically, it means this demo was released prior to the special edition, as Max Payne was released in 2001. With the classification of being a demo, I'm not counting this as an actual re-release, but I do think it deserved the mention. The most unique thing about this demo disc, besides bundling with it the Seriously Warped Deathmatch mode, would be the 10 bonus community-made levels. Please don't make my mistake and open the Seriously Warped Deathmatch mod, because it forced my computer's resolution to 640 by 480. It was a pain in the ass to change back, as my computer was convinced it was on the same resolution as before, which it clearly wasn't. There's no point in opening the mod anyways, because the GameSpy servers were shut down years ago. The one map I did open has an ambiance that accurately reflects this situation. The Xbox port of Serious Sam released in late 2002. It contains both the first and second encounters. It's a well-optimized port which runs just fine on the hardware. The frame rate can dip during some of the larger battles, but it remains stable for a majority of the experience. The first encounter portion of the game had a number of changes, on top of the many other things this package did to the experience. I'm going to quickly run through the changes, because otherwise we'd be on this for way too long. The presentation has been largely cartoonified. New cutscenes have been created to transition between levels. There are new weapon and enemy models, with some new animations to better suit them. An auto-aiming reticle appears on targeted enemies, making their hitboxes larger. 2 weapons from the second encounter were brought over to the first encounter portion of the game, the Chainsaw and Serious Bomb. The Serious Bomb was introduced as a weapon model in this port, instead of being triggered by pressing the 0 key on your keyboard. Weapons are selected by cycling through A and B. You can long press X and Y on a weapon to dedicate that button to it, useful for quickly swapping to your favorites. Crow Team's idea to dedicate these buttons removed their ability to include a reload button for the Colts. They seem to have considered it unnecessary at this point, as the full-blown sequel Serious Sam 2 would not have the option to reload even on PC. A live system was introduced to combat the hectic transition from PC to console. This system included multi-kill combos to increase score, bettering your chances to collect extra lives. You can overcharge both your health and armor up to 200. Extra ammunition can be picked up, but only for a point value. All forms of explosive jumping are disabled, whether by rockets or kamikazes. The Moon Mountain's secret stage is no longer unlocked by a pendulum at the end of the level. Here you must destroy 5 specific statues to automatically get sent there once finishing Valley of the Kings. It takes less time to spin up the minigun barrels before firing. Larger levels have been split in 2 for the sake of the console's memory. The Lava Golem boss was moved from Alley of the Sphinxes to the end of Metropolis. There's probably some more subtle details that I'm forgetting to mention, but that would cover most of it. Lots of people consider this the definitive Serious Sam experience, and without the live system or other accommodations to controller-based shooting, I would agree to that. This release brings me back to the days where porting an FPS to console meant more than tweaking it for the hardware. This is, essentially, a total conversion of the original encounters. There exists a port of this Xbox release to PC which modders were developing for a long time. It was released in an unfinished state 2 years ago. There are some bugs, but it's largely accomplished the challenge, so I'd recommend giving that mod a try. There exists a great guide for this port by Brady Games author Michael Loomis. It's a good read and reveals all the game's secrets in great detail. There's a lot of fun original renders in here too, so check this out if you're able to get your hands on it. Next was what appeared to be a port of the Xbox release back over to the PC, given the box art of Serious Sam Gold is identical, and there's one of the Xbox cutscenes shown on the back of the box. Well, that isn't the case. Serious Sam Gold, released in 2003, is just the first 2 encounters bundled together, assumedly in preparation for Serious Sam 2. This would further cement the first and second encounters being one full game. This pack has a flip cover with a gold background! A nice touch. It's the first Serious Sam PC release with detailed stats included in the manual. However, there's only pictures for the weapons, not the enemies or items like in the Xbox manual. Well, notice how every game so far has had a decent shelf label except for the original? And yet, due to the size of the original box, it's the one more likely to be separated. One of the cool things about Serious Sam's Gold Edition is how it includes the fan-made Dark Island expansion pack. Interestingly, this is only mentioned on the European copy's box. Nothing on the North American copy. Limited edition stickers! Oh my god, let's check it out! I mean, it's just the bomb and logo on sticky paper. No transparency or nothing. Yeah, I'm just gonna keep these on the paper. Oh, and about Dark Island.
Whoa, look at all this crap. This is worse than Hitler and stuff.
I don't think this counts in our list because 2004's Serious Sam Advance may take place in Egypt, but the game is really its own thing. In late 2009, Crow Team released an HD remake of the original First Encounter. This DVD case release is extremely rare, to the point where I've only seen it show up on eBay once. Given it's a Steam code with a disk installer, the thing is essentially useless once you've activated it. Hence, there was no need for anyone to keep the box. At least there's this jewel case copy which shows up brand new on eBay fairly often, but none of those DVD cases do. The one time it was on eBay, I bought it, and it's not in great shape. No manual was included either. To make up for this, I imported a European copy for an English manual. That release only has this quick start guide, which is as basic as it gets. So then I imported a copy in Thai so I could at least have something proper in there. I've wanted a complete copy of this game since it first came out, and I feel like this is the closest I'll ever get. I even bought the jewel case copy despite the manual would look out of place in the DVD box. Unfortunately, this copy doesn't even have a physical manual. It states the manual is available in PDF format on the disc. So let's check that out. Yeah, there's no PDF on this thing. Does this PDF exist in any capacity anymore? If so, Crow Team, please send. Well, this is kinda useless for me now. Might as well just put it on that shelf. Seriously? Why? Why? There's a label on the top and the bottom, but nothing on the side? Man, they really made these to be thrown out, didn't they? I've just found out recently that a North American copy of the second encounter exists. I never saw that around here. I figured they just did the first encounter and moved on. So, what differences exist in Serious Sam HD The First Encounter? Much like the Xbox port, this could have its own video. A lot of people have discussed how the HD style removes a lot of the personality the original had, and I can agree to that. It definitely seems less saturated, far more noticeable if you're coming from the Xbox port. Serious Sam HD never tried to be a game changer, although rebuilding a game from the ground up will inevitably result in at least subtle changes. Some enemies behave differently, a couple of mechanics aren't the same. For example, gravity-based environments from the original have been changed up completely because this version of the Serious engine does not support it. For the most part, Serious Sam HD aims to replicate the classic game with higher graphical fidelity. There's no wacky combos or a live system, it is simply First Encounter with a fresh coat of paint. One thing the classic games did that I liked was how enemy corpses would turn into ghostly figures that'd spiral into the sky before disappearing. I figured this implies the bodies are being returned to Mental's biolabs in order to be repurposed. In the HD games and beyond, corpses dematerialize, then crumble into ashes. I have a hard time believing these things can fall apart that easily. This is totally a nitpick, I just think the classic despawns did a better job at hiding their purpose, which was only to free memory. If you wish to play Serious Sam HD today, hold on because there are multiple ways to do it outside of the original executable. In fact, that's pretty much obsolete. Once Serious Sam HD The Second Encounter came out, a free DLC was introduced that allowed players to combine the first and second encounters into the second encounter executable. This would be called the Fusion DLC pack. With Fusion, first encounter players could now have access to the Steam Workshop for mod support. Unmodded, the player would be forced to use second encounter's blue HUD. It's unfortunate the Crow Team never offered an option to swap to the first encounter's green HUD, but nonetheless there are countless mods you can install, and of course, HUD color swaps are at the ready. You just won't be able to earn achievements when the modded executable is running. I don't know if this is even worth mentioning, but it's something I always noticed. In the Natrixa message board, your weapons kind of bob around, but not for second encounter where they're very still. To my knowledge, no mods exist to revert this back, so I guess that's one indefinite thing you'll lose in transition, but I don't know, I guess nobody really cared. Serious Sam HD was ported to the Xbox 360 via the Xbox Live Arcade Marketplace. In 2011, they sold the two games bundled as a retail product in PAL regions only. Crow Team, you guys gave me so much trouble not bringing that thing over here. I had to buy my own computer to play this game because I had an Xbox 360 but no internet connection. Had to take that computer to my friend's house to pirate the game through their Wi-Fi, but let's not talk about that part. I have no idea what the interface is like for this bundle. The disc is actually region locked. Nobody's posted any videos of it either, or at least not on startup. Someone should really get around to that. I bought this copy of the game for 3 reasons. Firstly, it's another official release of Serious Sam The First Encounter. Secondly, it has a manual that is eerily similar to the HD First Encounter on PC, so this is the closest I can get to having that thing in English. Thirdly, there exists a Serious Sam collection that was released retail here years later, and the cover for that game just sucks. So this makes for a great replacement box. I actually keep both discs in there. Appropriately, the manual shows the HD enemies, but strangely with the exception of a Cucurbido and Zumble. The Cucurbido looks close enough to its classic design, I guess, but the Zumble looks completely different in Serious Sam HD. You look at this and then you see the character in game, it's like night and day. Released in 2013, the Serious Sam collection is now your only method of playing these ports unless you've already bought them online, because they've since been delisted from the Xbox Live Arcade Marketplace. This contains not only the first 2 encounters, but also Serious Sam 3, its DLC, and that one indie game Serious Sam Double D, the XXL release. The ports have their own points of discussion, but the effort of publication here is laughable. The cover appears to have been thrown together in less than an hour. There's no manual, unlike the first and second encounter bundle that PAL Region got. The interface where you select your game is completely lifeless. Just look at that Arial font. As a collector, I think this might be the worst collection I've ever seen. For a publisher that's called Maximum Games, they sure gave their bare minimum here. I don't anticipate there being any major differences between the first second encounter bundle and the Serious Sam collection, so we'll approach these as one and the same, despite they technically count as two separate releases. Something I always found humorous is their inclusion of a How to Play menu, which is exclusive to these Xbox 360 ports. They must really question the capability of console gamers. The options are predictable. You get access to all default crosshairs, blood colors, and control schemes. Despite sharing a very similar controller to the original Xbox, the controls have been changed for this port. The ability to bind the Y and X buttons to a weapon does not exist here, though that does give room for the X button to be used to reload the Colts. In this generation, the left face button had become a standard for reloading in console first-person shooters, so this is appropriate. Auto-saving is one feature you'd consider a standard, however there exists no such function here. It's a major bummer if you've just per se defeated a boss, only to have to restart the entire level when a minor threat kills you shortly after. They implemented auto-saving for the second encounter, but at least for this encounter, you'll have to manually save the game with the Y button. The way this game handles controller vibration is perfect. Each weapon will vibrate the controller differently. It's a great feature. You'll feel the rotator on the rocket launcher as it turns, the new shells being thrown into your double shotgun. Love it. Switching between weapons is very easy too, with the included weapon wheel assigned to the D-pad. You can also switch between weapons individually by using the left or right trigger buttons. The port is a very exaggerated auto-aiming system. About a quarter of the screen size from your crosshair counts as a successful shot. While the original Xbox port had its own aiming system, and it may have been similar to this, it didn't feel as necessary there as it does here. I'm not sure how to explain it, but the way this port handles analog control feels unfinished. It's almost as if the game is emulating a mouse instead of utilizing a proper joystick configuration. The original Xbox port felt buttery smooth as you looked around, yet here it feels jerky and unresponsive. I'm no expert in analyzing these details, that's for someone else to interpret. One way Crow Team was able to optimize the game for the 360 hardware was by having the environments load in chunks. You can see this on occasion should you pop out from behind an obstacle. The environment may appear to quickly pop back in. This isn't an issue in regular gameplay, it's simply something that a keen observer may notice from time to time. Despite this effort, the game does suffer from the occasional hiccup. I would say it suffers more than the original Xbox port of the game does, though it is stable most of the time. Full transparency, I'm recording this on an Xbox 360 Slim model. The game itself has the same bugs as seen on the PC original. Sometimes the skeletal nightmare horses get stuck on terrain. This Reptiloid Highlander didn't touch this statue, yet it still got destroyed somehow. And floating Gunnars have a tendency to get stuck on the player. I noticed this weird shadowing effect on the Dunes level. During typical play you probably wouldn't notice this. Hey, isn't this guy supposed to be sleeping? Well, there's one of those subtle differences between the classic and HD release. When it comes to the Xbox 360 releases, there's unfortunately not much of a reason to go back to them. Although granted, that could be said for pretty much any PC to console ports from this generation. In 2014 came the abruptly revealed Project Serious Sam Revolution. This once again combines the first and second encounters into one package, this time seamlessly for one executable. Zeb89 was quick to announce his distaste for the project, so everything was going swell. This Steam-exclusive release was brought to you by a now-defunct team known as Alligator Pit, who had Crow Team's blessing. The most exciting thing about this release, negotiably the only reason it needed to exist, was to bring Steam Workshop's mod support to the classics. The most advertised feature, however, would be its inclusion of the Bright Island campaign expansion. It wasn't ready on launch, which is why the game released with an early access title. This expansion was put together by a couple of fans, much like Serious Sam Gold's earlier Dark Island expansion. It wouldn't be until 2019 where Bright Island would finally release, being on hiatus until Crow Team decided to step in and finish it to get this off their backlog. Bright Island wasn't too exciting, but it isn't nearly as awful as the earlier Dark Island. There's an enemy called the Beheaded Vaporwave. In 2017, Crow Team released Serious Sam VR: The First Encounter. This was the first encounter ported to a new version of the Serious engine with dedicated VR support. Shortly after, VR versions of the second encounter and Serious Sam 3 would follow. The same year, all previous owners of Serious Sam HD and 3 would be able to try Crow Team's new, semi-remastered versions of the game in a flat environment, for free, using what was called the new Serious Sam Fusion. This combined all mainline Serious Sam games into one executable, allowing players in VR to connect to flat players, and vice versa. Serious Sam Fusion would also have greater modding capabilities due to an expanded set of features. Some incredible content has come out from Fusion, but that's another story. The Fusion release of Serious Sam came out in early access, to be updated as development progressed on the Serious Sam 4 project, which would eventually be Fusion compatible. Unfortunately, there was a change of plans, and Serious Sam 4 ended up being a dedicated release without any intentions to combine with Fusion. Once that decision was made, Croteam silently abandoned the project, and now it sits in limbo. Will it ever be updated to remove the well-documented bugs and glitches? At this point in time, we don't know. Playing Serious Sam in VR is not something I had ever expected prior to hearing about it. Nonetheless, it exists, and it's not too bad. Unfortunately, the game's FOV changes between different VR headsets. I recently acquired an Oculus Quest 2, which has a considerably low FOV for this game. As of yet, there exists no way to change this, hence it can be rather nauseating. The one time I played this game using an HTC Vive, I had a blast, but it was still somewhat disorienting. I'd say give this port a try by all means, but on a normal day I'd prefer sticking with Fusion. I consider Fusion and the VR games to be the same release, so that's just one to add to our list. Last year, Croteam released the Serious Sam collection. Not to be confused with 2013's Xbox 360 release of the same name, this collection is basically the Fusion build of Serious Sam sold digitally on 4 different platforms. It came out for Google Stadia in March, followed by a PS4, Xbox One, and Switch release in November. In summary, Serious Sam Fusion was and still is an unfinished early access project. There is nothing wrong with reselling your game, but to do so while completely avoiding the numerous issues the build has, at the least it's a lazy cash grab. Still, having access to Serious Sam HD on the go is a great excuse to pick this up for the Nintendo Switch. Serious Sam: The First Encounter has been officially released 11 times, 12 if you include Fusion in the list. Now, I'm fairly certain this number is accurate, but there could be some far more obscure releases out there which even I've never heard of. A lot of this stuff can fly under the radar, so who's to say for sure. Another potential release just popped up while I was writing this. There was a bundle with the Gigabyte Maya 2 Radeon GV 9500 Pro that came with a copy of the game in 2003. Granted, I think that better fits into the reprint category. It is likely an identical copy of the game with the exception of its disc label. So what do I consider when it comes to playing The First Encounter? Well, as discussed, there are many options. In my opinion, the best way to play is through Serious Sam's 2017 Fusion build. Yes, it is unfinished, but the benefits of playing through this build far outweigh the reasons to go back to 2009's Serious Sam HD. Those benefits would be the enhancements brought to the game through the engine upgrade, such as high dynamic range, split-screen support, ambitious mods. It's a lot. Anytime I go back to the default HD games, it feels like a major backpedal. I assume most of us feel the same, which is why we're really hoping that Croteam eventually fixes the couple of bugs. There are those who will say Serious Sam HD doesn't hold a candle to the classics, and where do I stand in that argument? Honestly, I like both and I can relate to either side. Sometimes I want to play classic, though more regularly HD, especially with the many classic-inspired mods that exist on the workshop, blending the best of both worlds. For a strictly classic experience, I suggest using the Steam release of First Encounter. It's patched for proper widescreen support and runs flawlessly on modern PCs. You also don't have to deal with the added weirdness of Serious Sam Revolution this way, such as its default view models being changed. If you have an RTX-enabled card, you can also try the Ray Trace upgrade, which a fan produced and released recently, as Croteam has previously released the source files for their original Serious engine, making this, and other efforts like porting the game to the Switch, possible by homebrewers. We might see some more crazy stuff happen to this game in the future, but we'll just have to wait and see. I've enjoyed taking a look back at all the releases of Serious Sam: The First Encounter, and hopefully you got something out of this too. At the end of the day, regardless of which Serious Sam you're playing, as long as you're having a good time, well, that's what matters. Thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you Frame Raiders in the next video.
Holy shit, bro. What you got there?
Box of Sam?
What? Holy shit!